Well, good morning, YouTube. We have another really wet day today. I know it's turning out to be a pretty damp spring, but anyway, we won't be going outside to start logging or anything like that. I do have another small job to finish up or to get started on for around the house. Because of where we live, anything that comes in parcels has to come up to the door. So what I need to make is a small box by the door that the mailman can leave parcels inside, things that don't fit in the regular mailbox. So I have been using a plastic tote, a Rubbermaid plastic tote, for a few years, and it has gotten crispy and it's literally shattered on the front. So time to do something about that and make a proper wooden one that will last a little bit longer. So let's get started on that job. So this has proven to be kind of interesting. These boards, when they came out of the sawmill, were about 8 1/4 inches wide, which is the plan, so I could finish them at 8 inches if I wanted. So that's what I did with them. I first ran them through at 8 inches. Then I thought, well, that's going to be too wide. That's going to make my box 24 inches wide, and that's too much. I think I only wanted about 16 inches wide. So I tried to cut one of the boards down to 4 inches, and there's so much stress in it that I can't get it through the table saw. It just pinches up right away. I can't even get it back as far as my homemade sort of riving knife to hold it open. It's just not working. So I've come up with a slightly different solution. I'm going to cut my boards about 1/8 of an inch wider than I want, just with my jigsaw. And then from there, I can just do that light trim off on the table saw. And that seems to work. So I got one more board to go here with the jigsaw. All right, onto the table saw. Alright, I've got my foot clamped on the bottom here for this one, so I'm going to drill pilot holes through the boards and run screws down in to secure the foot in place. All right, there's one foot on. We'll get the other one clamped up and in place. All right, so I've got the feet on, and I've now screwed on a couple of pieces on either end to use to screw the sides to. bottom part of it done. So I've already drilled the pilot holes for these. Okay, so I've come up with an angle of about 7 degrees on the top. So I've cut my first side piece here and left it a bit high, and then I can take it down with the plane. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to fasten that into place and then work on it with the plane. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, so it's been a couple of days. I was down at Arts for a little bit doing some work down there, but now it's time to get back to work at this box. Oh, and the other thing I did was go to my favorite store, one of my favorite stores, Princess Auto, and picked up a few things. So I am a firm believer that you can never have too many clamps. So I've got a bunch there, but most of my clamps, all these C-clamps, were initially for metal work that I used to do. But I now have to expand. These clamps are just great. I absolutely love these. They reach in nice and deep, and you've got such a huge adjustment range on them. That's really nice. And I picked up a couple of big F clamps, and I also got some pipe, not from Princess Auto, they don't do plumbing stuff, but I got some pipe to use these pipe clamps that I've had and not had enough pipe for them. So that's a real plus. The other thing I did was I found some pneumatic casters at Princess Auto that fit this cart. I didn't have to do anything with it, no extra drilling and tapping, that type of thing. These casters just bolted straight on, so that was fantastic. This is going to be a really handy cart for moving lumber around and that type of thing. And I'm also going to build a box on it for tools. So when I'm doing a job somewhere out in the yard and whatnot, and I've got a bunch of stuff to move around, I don't have to do it with the ATV or the tractor or anything like that every time. I can just throw some stuff into this and away I go. So that will be the next little project, is to build the box for this. So there's the wood cut for the lid. Now I put a 7-degree angle on this back board so that its edge is straight up and down with the back of the box. And I've got about a 2-inch overhang on the sides and the front. I want to put a little strip down the sides and down the front to help keep the snow and stuff out when the box is sitting there. So there's the inside of the lid. So next is to fit the hinges. So there's the hinges I'm going to use. So my plan is to install this under the lid and on the back like that. That should be pretty simple. I have often had issues with hinges and not being able to get the things to close properly. But I've got a little more experience now, and I think I can probably do a little easier job of it these days. So what I'm going to do is first attach them to the lid and use the hinge buckle point to line the hinge up onto the lid. But before I attach them to the lid, I'm going to do a little undercut in there for this area of the hinge to fit in the lid so it's not sticking up, because I don't want it holding the lid open kind of thing. And then I might have to do a little very shallow undercut on the outside here for the hinge in order to make sure that it closes properly and isn't too tight. So let's lay out these on the inside, get the router out, and do a little cutaway for them. All right, let's see how that looks. All right, let's see what happens. That's perfect. Just a little tidy up touch on it. Well, there we go. That looks so much nicer than that blue bin that was there. A lot tidier. Well, that's another job done. Now, there's just a couple of takeaways that I got from this job that I'll share with you. So, the takeaways I got from this job: these pine boards that have got the larger knots in them, especially when you see this kind of pink color around them, have got a lot of stress in them. They are difficult to cut. Very tricky to cut on the table saw. I could trim them, but when I actually tried to cut down through them a couple inches thick or a couple inches wide, it would just pinch right up on the blade. Even with that knife I've got in behind the blade to help keep the boards apart, they pinched up on that too. So there's a tremendous amount of stress. And these boards really warp. That's got one heck of a warp in it. One other thing I learned from dealing with these boards is it's very hard to get a true straight edge. I don't have a jointer, and I don't want to spend the money on one. They can be pretty expensive. So I'm going to make a jig for the table saw. I'm going to make a jointer fixture for the table saw. And I've got some clamps already ordered for it. And we'll see what we can come up with when that does show up, because I do want to be able to cut a nice straight edge. And on boards like this that have got just a small curve in them, it can be really tricky to get a straight edge on them. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you out on the trails the next time.